Hi everyone. We'll just wait for another 30 seconds, maybe for others to join before starting our meetup. So just start up in the next 30 seconds. All right. Hi everyone. Thank you for attending and welcome to the virtual meetup hosted by Octane Software Solutions for the month of March. As most of you are already aware, in these meetups, we try to cover various interesting topics related to IBM Planning Analytics and other products within Analytics Stack. As for those good people who are joining this meetup for the first time, a small heads up, just so you know, we conduct these meetups on a regular basis each month. So make sure to subscribe to our mailing list to get future meetup updates. In today's session, I'll cover the capabilities of Power Query and how it could be used in conjunction with IBM Planning Analytics to build synergy between the two and gain productivity and boost efficiency at work. I would start with the usual, where I will take this as an opportunity to introduce myself first. Myself, Amin Mohammed, and I work as a senior planning analytics consultant in one of our branch offices in Hyderabad city in India. I joined Octane in 2017, and before that, I had worked as a senior advisory consultant at IBM. I have a total experience of more than 10 years in providing financial solutions to business using TM1 spanning across various domains. During my career, I had also worked and led various implementation projects for IBM Planning Analytics, both onshore as well as offshore, and has been awarded with many recognitions in my previous companies. You may find my email address as well as my LinkedIn address on this slide. So feel free to shoot me an email or add me on LinkedIn, and I would be happy to connect with you. Moving to the agenda for today's meetup, this is how I'm planning to approach this session. So I'll start with a brief introduction of Octane, and then I'll cover a few slides on the main topic, followed up with a demo and Q&A right at the end. About Octane, we are proud IBM Gold partner, and we work closely with IBM conducting various breakfast shows, webinars, running the promotional campaigns, etc. Just recently, we did a very informative webinar last month on an interesting topic named Plan for Anything, Be Ready for Everything. This was presented by Kevin Jessup, who is IBM's leading performance management solutions architect. We have a total of 6 offices, 2 in Australia and 4 in India. The head office is located in Sydney, Australia. We have more than 40 certified IBM Planning Analytics consultants in our 6 offices, and together we have delivered more than 100 projects successfully, both locally and as well as globally. So with that, let me just jump on to the folder first, where I'll just walk you through what are the different files that we are planning to push the data in to the planning analytics. So the folder that you see right now, here you can see there are 3 files, and these files currently contains the FTE data by employee that is ready to be sent to a cube named employee in planning analytics. Let's just first review this file and see what's the data that we have in these files. So as you can see, by the name of this files, you can see that it has 3 years of data, all in different files. Right, so this is just a very simplistic scenario where you would have the data in Excel. So just open that. So it starts with the first step, which is defining the source. So this is where you can just click at each setting icon over here and see what each of those steps are actually doing for you. So as you can see, the folder name, it is picking up this particular folder name, and the next step is it is filtering all the files, which are all the sheets that are hidden as the second step. Then in the third step, it is invoking some custom formula, and here on the top you can see there is already that code that is being generated for each step. then in the following step, it is actually renaming this this particular column to a different name from, I think it was name before, and it changed to source dot name. And then it had, as a next step, removed a few of the metadata columns which were not required. Then it had expanded the columns within this particular table. So if I just click on the table for each of these table, I can actually preview the data at the bottom down here. And for expanding, it has simply selected at this icon and then selected the columns that it requires to process. So this is the step that it had done. So it had selected that, and you can see all the columns now appearing here. And then finally, what it had done it has actually changed the formatting of the columns accordingly. All right, so this is now the data that we have after we have filtered those particular columns. So now the next step is to load it to Excel. So here is where I can click it, close and load, and it's gonna now dump all that data into Excel. And again, this is dynamic in the sense that if you add a new file, it's gonna again apply those steps of filtering and then loading that data into Excel. And once you have the data in Excel, now again, you just use your formula or whatever it is, and send the data in TM1 if that's the next step that you want to do over here. So that's our second scenario where we have data in different formats and we want to only restrict it to a certain format and process that information. All right, so that's the Power Query editor. So here is where I want to split this particular column into two columns, right? So here is where we have an option called, if I just right click on this particular column, there is an option called split column. And here you have different options how you can split a particular column. So here I'm going to use a delimiter because I could see that a hyphen is being used as a delimiter to separate two different sets of information. So I'm just going to use this as an option. And now it's going to present me with further options that I can use from here. So here is where I can select from the predefined delimiters that are available, or I can just define whatever the delimiter that I can type it in here. So I've used a hyphen here, and then it also allows you to split at different positions. So I'm just going to leave it at each occurrence because there's only one occurrence of hyphen. So I'm just going to select that and then click OK. And as soon as I do that, now you can see that it has been delimited to two different columns. Dynamic report over here. So that's a dynamic report. Here is what I have two reports. One is showing the FTE data for an organization, and it has a job code, the department, and the FTE, and it is sitting in a cube called employee. Then you have expenses data. So this is the compensation expenses for the employees, and this is sitting in compensation reporting, and this is again by organization, and this is by employee as well, and the employees are stacked across the column. So now the intention is that we should be able to merge these two reports in Excel and be able to analyze the data side by side. And if I have to do it in dynamic reports, as you can understand that it is not possible to stack the reports onto the columns within one data range. So therefore, it has some limitations that we have to work with, and that's where the Power Query will come pretty handy. Load it to. So I'm just going to create a connection in this particular case, and as soon as I do that, I can see that table 1 has been created for me as a connection. Similarly, I'm going to do the same exercise again, and this time I'm just going to do it for the expenses. So I'm just going to click at that. So just don't need the second step. I can delete each step that are not required, and that's still going to work. So if I just going to do that like that, and now I have this data. Now the thing is, I want to have this column stacked as rows. So I don't generally want to see all the rows extending to like 15 or 13, 20 columns. What I can do is I can use an functionality called Unpivot the Data, which is going to bring all my columns as rows. So for that, I just right click at one of the column, and there is an option called Unpivot Column. So I can select either Unpivot Columns for the column that I want to unpivot, or I can click at Unpivot Other Columns. So it's going to unpivot all the columns other than what I have selected. So here, once I select that, it has now brought all my columns as rows. So now that I have done this exercise, I'm just going to close and again go to, and this time again I'm going to create a connection. All right, so just create a connection. So now that I have these two connections, the last step is to merge these two particular queries. So for merging, you go to get data, and here from combine queries, you have an option called merge. So here, what this allows me to do is what connections that I have, I can actually merge that to connections and then present the data basis on how I want to see it. So here it requires me the merging criteria. So here I'm going to use the organization from each table by highlighting those two fields and selecting one of the join kinds. So there are 6 different join kinds that I can use. So if you are familiar with Excel, you would know what are these joints, like you've got left outer, right outer, put outer, and so forth. So I'm not going to go into this, but you can always select one of these joints, and then here in this case, I'm going to select the left outer joint. So what this is going to do here is it's going to take all the records from the left column, the left table, which is table 1, and the matching ones on the table on the right.
Does the combine feature work on subfolders as well?
Yes, it does. So it actually iterates to all the subfolders within that folder. So if I, for example, had multiple folders within this TM1 source files 4, it would iterate those very folders and bring the data from there.
Cool. Okay, the next one is Power Query case sensitive?
Yes, it is actually case sensitive, and that's a very important point to be mindful of, because it is not only case sensitive, but it is also space sensitive. So for example, the table names that we had, if it is a different name that you are giving in, then it may not work. Similarly, if you have two records, one with a space and one without a space, it would treat as 2 separate records and not merge them. But there is always workarounds of mapping that as one record in Power Query, but by default it is space sensitive. Yes.